So I was sitting here today thinking about consequences, something that a lot of us are guilty of not letting our own kids suffer when they make truly bad decisions, which consequences are the greatest life lesson on being careful of what you do. For example, we're going to go back to when CD players first came out.
And away we go.
I wanted one. I managed. My dad got me one, and we had the old cabinet stereo. Everyone remember those? They had the flip top with the turntable in there, and you had the big radio in the front and the side speakers, or it was the doors in the front, and the first shelf slid out, and the turntable was in there. Anyway, ours is the front doors with the turntable inside, and I was going to take that out, and I was going to mount my CD player in there. And my dad was letting me do it myself. You got to learn to do these things. You have to learn to look after yourself. So he'd let me do this. Now we're sitting there, and I'm in there, and I'm getting it all ready, and I'm all set, and I'm about to cut the power cord in there going to the turntable. And my dad asked me, "Are you forgetting anything?" And I said, "No, I'm ready to go." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "No, I'm ready to go. It's ready." And he went, "Are you absolutely sure that you remembered to do everything you were supposed to beforehand?" And I got mad, and I said, "I know what I'm talking about. Got this." And he's like, "What about the power?" And I'm like, "Power's off. No worries." And he said, "Is it?" And I said, "Yeah." And I stuck my head out from inside the cabinet, and I pushed the power button. I said, "That is on, that is off. That is on, that is off." And he said, "Okay." And I went in, and I had the pliers, and I cut through that wire, and the bang and the flash hit from the cutting through a live wire was intense. Like, I banged my head, I jumped back, and I come rolling backwards from that cabinet, and I'm cursing. And so the times, like, we didn't get in trouble for swearing when we were kids as long as it was used appropriately or under the right circumstance. And my dad's sitting there with a big smile on his face. And all he said to me is, "And what did we just learn?" And I said, "Make sure everything is unplugged before you work on it. Minor injury, a lot of fear, maybe a little stain and wet spot in the shorts, no damage done." That's just one example of learning a lesson the hard way. And your parents sitting there and watching, knowing what's going to happen, knowing the rough lesson you're about to learn, but letting you learn it. See, and a problem we have today is we have a problem with letting our kids learn hard lessons. Some of us say, "I don't want them to learn hard lessons like I did because it was hard." Me, on the other hand, I try to do the same thing. I try so hard to just give the information and the knowledge, but you still gotta let them make that stupid decision. Okay, like I'm a big one when it comes to when you go to do something, when you're gonna take a trip or you're going somewhere, you better have a plan. And the plan doesn't have to be solid. You just got to have some sort of plan. We're leaving at this time. We're arriving at this time. We're going to take this route. That's close enough to the plan I require. I really pushed that on my kid. And it took a while. But now she gets frustrated when her own friends won't come up with a plan when they're going to go do something, head to the city, or go out on the weekend. She's like, "How do people not plan? How do you not protect yourself if you're not going to plan?" Because everybody thinks they're going to get rescued. Voila. Oh, that's itchy. Anyway, back to the consequences. We got to allow consequences to happen. You got to have your action and your result and a lesson learned. And sometimes that result from your actions is a consequence that you really didn't want, but you were going to learn a good lesson that you needed. Might not be the lesson you wanted to learn, but it's a lesson you needed to learn. And we need to allow more people to suffer the consequences, to learn the lessons that they need to learn. We can't allow them run free without consequences, because look what's going on out there. That is a result of not allowing more consequences. And then what happens is you get us Gen X kids. We were on our own. Yes, we were completely feral. There were a lot of consequences to the things we did. A lot of us got scars growing up. The amount of broken bones amongst friends, the fights, the brutality, it was wild. And people saw that and went, oh no, I don't want my kid growing up that tough, that hard. But look what happened. And you got people crying because they have to work an entire day. When I hear somebody say, I'm too tired, why do I have to work an 8-hour day? I'm like, 8 hours? I'd kill to work an 8-hour day. I've never worked anywhere where it's less than 10 to 12. I do that willingly. I could go take a minimum wage job, bag groceries, serve coffee at Starbucks. Not really coffee, but you get my drift. And make nothing and whine and cry that I should get more. But no, I, like many people in my generation, chose to take the hard jobs to make money so we can look after ourselves, because we know what it means to be independent, not to depend on anybody else, not to have a constant cushion or safety net there to bail you out every time you screwed up. Why? Because we had consequences to our actions. We learned lessons. Our parents let us learn tough lessons. I mean, at one time, this kid was picking on me and I wanted to fight him, but I couldn't. I knew he would beat the hell out of me. My dad said, you got to fight him anyway. You have to take that beating. One, it'll help your self-respect because you stood up. And two, the reality is, here's one for the younger people with the bullying. Even if you lose, as long as you fight back, you're not too much of a problem for them. They're not going to bully you no more because they suffered a consequence of their actions, which was you defending yourself. You see where all this leads to in the end when you don't allow people to learn lessons, hard lessons and tough lessons? I've actually sat there saying sometimes and go, well, I'm just going to let this happen, because no better lesson for my daughter is going to be a hard lesson that she's going to learn when I allow this to take place. It's a lesson that needs to be learned because it'll probably only have to be learned once. And I think more people need to take hard lessons, learn from them, because then you don't have as many hard lessons down the road if you're learning them as you go. But if there are no consequences, you keep running into the same problems over and over and over again in your life, and you blame everybody else because nobody is rescuing you, nobody's bathing you, and nobody is wrapping you up in bubble wrap for your stupid ideas. Because some of us Gen Xers, yes. Most boomers turned around and let their kids dictate what they wanted. Nothing's worse than them countdown parents, or the parents that, the ones that always go 1, 2, 3, but never do anything. And then there's the ones that just let the kid decide. Well, we believe the kid should make their own decisions. No, you're the adult. You don't let kids make their own decisions, because you're not letting them make their own decisions and suffering consequences from them. You're just letting them tell you what to do, and then you make everything super safe when they screw up and make excuses. Us Gen X kids, we were allowed to make a lot of decisions for ourselves because our parents were, distant parents. But at the same time, we suffer consequences. There were rules imposed by kids. That goes whole back to there wasn't normal bullying. There was pecking order amongst kids and on the playground. And there was always a couple of them ones at the super top that didn't pick on anybody. But if bullies went too far, they dealt with it. Because they knew nobody could push them around, so they didn't pick on anybody else. And that's where the pecking order came in. Now, this is going to turn into a rant that's going to wind up more political than just Gen X point of view. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go for now, and I will say this is Drac, saying talk to you later. Bye-bye for now. Peace out, everyone.